past weekend, I was able to see The Accountant 2 at its world premiere at South by Southwest. So let's talk about it. While I'm talking, be sure to join me down below in the comments section. Are you excited for The Accountant 2? Did you see the first movie? And if you're watching this in the future, when the second one has actually come out, what did you think about it? Now, when it comes to me, I thoroughly enjoyed the first Accountant. I love kind of these mid-budget action thrillers. These are the types of movies that I grew up with. And The Accountant added just a couple of extra fun ingredients into the mix. In particular, having this lead character that has autism and playing that out in a very naturalistic way, but in this action thriller context. It's just, we haven't seen an action hero like that before. Plus, there's kind of a mystery to it all. There's a lot of character-based elements. And with the nature of The Accountant, it was designed to set up a franchise. He's a character that gets in these little adventures every once in a while, like The Equalizer, like Jack Reacher. Thus, the strange thing isn't that we're getting a sequel, it's that it's taken so long to make a sequel. By now, we should have a trilogy of Accountant films, not getting the first one 9 years later. That makes it seem strange just because they did take so long. Likewise, the first film just ended kind of teasing something between Affleck and Bernthal, where you immediately go, well, I want to see more of that. Once again, making it odd that it's taken 9 years for that to happen. So, did the movie live up to the original one? Is it a solid sequel? Do we want to see more Accountant films now that we've seen a second one? Let's get started with the good, and we'll cut right to the chase. I had a good time with The Accountant 2. Now, this is very much my kind of movie. I thoroughly enjoyed the first film, so it was a movie I was very excited to check out. And what this movie does to kind of complement the first movie is that it really cranks up the fun. The first movie absolutely had a subtle sense of humor sprinkled all throughout the whole movie. Perhaps that element is a little bit more prominent in this film. And the big thing that kind of adds to that is that Jon Bernthal is a much bigger part of this film, and it's very much this buddy film about the two brothers on this adventure. So the Bernthal character is designed to be kind of this very energetic, charismatic guy that's kind of crazy. As soon as he is right there with our lead character in so many scenes, it just amplifies the fun and the energy of the movie overall. And that kind of very much distinguishes it. By putting those two characters together, it gives it a different vibe without actually changing the genre of the film all that much. Now, of course, the other thing that just makes these films stand out is going back to our lead character who has autism. And so we're seeing an action movie through the lens of someone with autism and doing a very character-based action movie that makes that element very prominent. It plays that out in his day-to-day life, even in how he does his work, how he thinks through things. And it's like representation done right. It makes it interesting without, turning it into a superpower or something like that like misrepresents it while trying to put it in a positive light. It just plays it out in this heightened context. And it makes the character very interesting, very compelling, and makes him cut through in a genre filled with characters that fall into like one of three molds. The Accountant is truly unique, and getting someone like a Ben Affleck who has, now a 30-year-long career, over 25 years of being a movie star. He has that screen presence, and he can pull out all these little subtle things in the humor and the performance and make someone that it's very tricky to make this character as likable and charismatic as he is. And of course, Affleck is able to pull that off. And when partnered with Bernthal, who's just like chewing up every scene that he's in, it's a really fun pairing. Now, was something I mentioned just a little bit ago, but it is very much a buddy film where the two of them partner up and they're trying to figure out this mystery and everything. And so you get all the fun beats that come with a buddy film. Whereas in the first movie, he was partnered up kind of more with Anna Kendrick. Here it's with his brother. And that it's interesting to think of it like that's each movie had a pairing, and this one goes with the brother, and it's just a very different vibe while kind of having the same element to it in a certain sense. I would say the story in part 2 is a lot more cohesive than the story in the first movie. And what I mean by that is the first accountant, it's structured to basically have 3 different main plot lines that merge together kind of at the end, where our accountant is on this adventure with Anna Kendrick. He's being chased down by J.K. Simmons and with the investigation and what's kind of going on there. And then you have everything going on with John Bernthal. Plus, you have these flashbacks. And that's kind of creates this intrigue of like what's going on with the investigation, who's Bernthal, how's he going to tie in, what's kind of going on with the flashbacks, his backstory. That like there's a lot of intrigue that comes with that, but it made for a fragmented story where we're kind of jumping around between a number of different pieces. And this movie pulls the pieces together where all of our leads share a lot of screen time together. They play off each other. They're in the story together. They're on the same mission. They have the same objective. Sometimes they go off in different directions, but it's all working towards the same goal. At least to the audience, we all know we're working towards the same goal, whereas in the first movie, it was kind of in a bunch of different places. And I think that kind of helps with the flow a little bit when we're all on the same page, working towards one thing. We know the goal. It gives it that forward momentum. Other thing that this one does well is that you really hate the villains in this film. In the first one, the mystery about this evil corporation and stuff and cooking the books and what are they trying to cover up the cook, like you're not all that really invested. Like it's not like, okay, killing people's bad, but it's not that sick and twisted, kind of the way that plays out. Whereas this one ties into like child slaves, sex trafficking, stuff that like every person goes like, ugh. And it leans into it very early on to where you go like, there's bad stuff out there that we are trying to unpack. And when you have villains that you hate and the way that it sets up its third act and the pieces kind of coming together, you get this big slam bang third act with a ticking clock, stakes that you're invested in, and just like a big gigantic shootout that happens. That is much bigger and more thrilling than the shootout at the end of the first movie, which was cool, but much smaller scale and kind of ended on a much more character beat, whereas this one ends on all kinds of action, high body count, lots of machine guns and explosions, that sort of thing. So as someone that likes these types of movies, as someone that really enjoyed the first film, this one is a nice complement to it. That it doesn't just rehash what the first movie did. It has the same elements, but it has a different feel to it, different vibe, in particular because of that buddy element with the brother stepping in more prominently and just bringing things to life. And this one has line dancing in it, so some people are going to absolutely love that. There's some other things here I wasn't so crazy about, so let's move on to the bad. And I would say with both of the accountant films, the weakest element tends to be the plot and the intrigue and even the nature of the storytelling, where perhaps some of the elements of intrigue kind of make you wonder, all right, who is this person? How's this going to play out? How do they tie together? There's a little bit of that kind of goes on, but they kind of choose this overly convoluted way to tell the stories. Like in many regards, they're fairly straightforward action movies, but told with all these flashbacks and from different perspectives, and you're piecing it together as if it were in the middle of the mystery. That's not actually all that complicated. It's only complicated because of the way that it's told. And I don't think that necessarily serves either one of these movies. It made more sense in the first film where we're trying to figure out who is this accountant, what's his backstory, who are these kind of investigator people, how does it all pull together? And they try to replicate that in this film with a character, but because it's not our lead, it's not quite as interesting and compelling. And it feels a little bit like they were trying to figure out how to have the intrigue and mystery surrounding characters without knowing how to fully incorporate it into the story and the action. So there's a number, while the story's more focused and cohesive than the first one. I still think it's overly convoluted. Other thing here is that there's less accounting in the film. And, of course you go to these movies to see Ben Affleck shoot people in the face and break people's arms and stuff. But part of the gimmick, hence the title, is the accounting, that he's this guy that's really smart and recognizes patterns. Like there's a couple scenes where, here's all the evidence and he recognizes the patterns where no one else can. Like there's some of that in there, but it feels like it dials back the pattern recognition, his ability to just like lock in and I have to solve this puzzle. That doesn't seem quite as big of a part of it because it leans so much into like, hey, isn't it fun to see the brothers do their thing? Another one, it just needed more action. And in particular, in the middle, there's some of these big lulls that it's a lot of fun with the brothers, but not a lot of action. And this is particularly noticeable because there's a part in the movie where they set up kind of the classic buddy movie trope, the bar fight, and they treat it as just a punchline to a joke with a sight gag rather than showing the fight at the exact moment where you needed somebody to get punched in the face and you want to see the two brothers doing this together. And then there's just some plot choices where they, I don't want to say too much with the nature of the team that our lead character turns to for help. That is kind of in the first movie, they introduce his friend from the school he grew up with as kind of the person in the chair that's guiding him behind the scenes. They expand on that, and I think they leaned too far into it in a way that strained too much credibility. It was like, I think you're going too far. Like, I'm not buying into what you just said. What you're suggesting that they're able to do there, I'm not buying into it. So there's a few of those things that just kind of made you go, I'm not crazy about how far you're going with that. But overall, as someone that really enjoyed the first film, this movie was a nice continuation. I can see fans of the original going either way. There's people that are going to really enjoy the first film as just like this entry point into it, this exploration where the origin story is a little bit more compelling. And I can see a lot of people preferring the second movie that leans into the fun, the brothers and their dynamic, and then does kind of have villains you hate more and a better third act to it. But they're very comparable films, very consistent franchise in the quality, in my mind, at least up to this point in time. And that's kind of where I go back to what I said before of it feels like this is a franchise that we should be getting more of these because you just want to spend time with these characters having this type of adventure. It's that sort of story, that sort of character. You just want to go off on an adventure with them every couple of years, every 2 or 3 years, have some fun, do some math, shoot some people in the head, save some people, and laugh all along the way. I had a good time with this one. Overall, it's a B+ on the entertainment scale, an 8 out of 10. And if you like action movies, go see this one in the theater so we get more of these movies made. If you want to check out more of my South by Southwest coverage, I'll link to something around here, button, different video, whatever it looks like. I don't know. Hey, thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.